All right, folks, we're gonna start out today with a governance committee, report out. Darlene, who chairs our governance committee, um, Susanna's gonna report out today on, some stuff with our governance. So at this point, if everything's okay with you, Darlene, I'm gonna let Susanna get into it a little bit, okay?
Yes, good morning, sure.
Wonderful.
I'd like to call the governance,
Go ahead, Darlene, go ahead.
go ahead, Susanna, go ahead.
Okay. Well, good morning. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So we're going to start our governance meeting off talking about our internal control program. This is the first governance meeting we'll have for this fiscal year. One thing that we're working on right now is continuing our efforts on enhancing the awareness of internal control across the organization. It's one of the requirements of the comptroller's guidance relating to internal control. So we have a lot of continued efforts in kind of just reinforcing the importance of it, kind of helping everyone understand a little bit more about what it actually is across the organization. One of the efforts was the watchdog, which you guys have seen before. You should have gotten the most recent copy in your board packet. Last issue, we expanded the availability of this document to all administrative staff, kind of trying to see what the participation was going to be, and it was actually very positive. There was a lot of positive feedback from all administrative staff, not just people who were on the specific internal control team historically. This has been really positive, trying to reinforce kind of consciousness in your daily activities of what internal control actually is. Every single person in the organization has a responsibility to it. Every single person performs control activities, whether or not they're realizing it or not. So this has been really positive to try to bring that kind of thought forefront and moving forward in enhancing internal controls across the organization.
So Susanna, is it safe to say sometimes good internal controls is when you have maybe multiple people looking at a transaction and nobody has too much authority on at any given point?
Yeah, separation of duty and multiple kind of review.
I paid
Yeah.
attention to you last year, so
For sure. Yes, definitely, I would say so. So positive feedback on that regard. In addition, one of the initiatives that we started under the internal control program was kind of redeveloping the strategic plan. That was included in the comprehensive annual report that you all received last month. That document did combine the strategic plan, the annual report, and the final budget book. So it's great that that document is put together and it's out, but that particular plan requires additional ongoing management. So what we are doing internally is the executive team is going to start meeting quarterly to manage and perform specific activities to make sure that that particular plan stays updated, up to date.
So you're assessing what you say that we're doing to
Yes,
make sure
so-
we're doing it.
Yeah, so measuring our performance that we've indicated in the plan that we're going to start working towards. Our first meeting was held on May 5th. It was really a good meeting. We looked over all of the different performance measures that we've decided we're going to start tracking. Had some really good discussion and updates on what our initiatives are. In addition to regular goal setting, project management that occurs on an everyday basis, this is just an additional layer to kind of, okay, this is where we're at with this, what's our next step, what's our next goal, to make sure that that document every year shows progression. There'll be different activities that we do at different quarterly intervals, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, and then also looking at the performance results. So that was good.
So you have buy-in from the department heads so they can trickle down to everybody.
Yes, exactly. So the strategic plan management process happens at the executive level. All the VPs are on the strategic planning team. And then for each specific initiative that falls under one of our long-term goals, there may be, a subcommittee or additional departments that participate in getting that particular project done. One of the other things that's part of this particular process is the annual performance measures report. That should have been included in the board packet as well. This is something that I don't believe has historically been put in the board packet before. This is something that we have to do under public authorities law. Section 2824. It requires that we adopt a mission statement and that we adopt performance measures that we're going to report on every year. Historically, we've been posting the performance results on the website, the forward-facing website. What we did this year was, through the process of redeveloping and enhancing the strategic plan, we revisited what performance measures we're actually posting out there and what we're looking at. The guidance does not specify what specific measures you have to look at. It's basically, you look internally, what's your vision, what kind of measures do you want to see? The requirements are that the board does review these measurements every year, so we're going to be including this report for you once per year going forward. We look at measurements such as, operating cost per hour, operating cost per passenger, fare box recovery ratio, some call-a-bus measurements. So measurements based on operating efficiency, performance, and then professionalism and safety. So, are there any questions on?
I want to comment on your report. I thought it was very good. This is not, when you talk this type of language, internal control, it's not nothing, how can I say this, that you get excited about. It's, I mean.
Hold on, she does.
I know.
Yeah. Susanna gets excited about it, but I mean, it's stuff that's gotta get done. It's kind of this right here, but I want to just tell you, and I think, the board appreciates your report and the level, and what I like about it too is that you have a ton of information. Actually, before I went to sleep last night, I read this note before.
Or I'll put you to sleep.
But what I did like about it too was that you put it in some layman terms that people without that kind of background understand this. So we do appreciate that on behalf of the board.
Thank you.
And I'll open up to the board for any questions in the room or on the phone.
You use the term fare box recovery.
Yes.
What's that mean?
So the fare box recovery ratio is an NTD data measure, and what that includes is all of our fare box revenue and any revenue that we receive from contracted services. So that is the percentage of the total cost that revenue covers. So out of the operating cost to run a passenger ride, 10.4% of it is from the fare box recovery. The rest of it comes from subsidies or advertising revenue.
So 10% of our expenses are covered by the fare box.
Yeah.
Including the regular bus ride, the
Yeah.
central bus.
Yes,
Oh.
yeah. So that includes, the fixed route service, the fixed route fare sales, and then also any, like Syracuse University or Board of Education
Special
contract
line.
revenue.
Yep.
Right. And then all of your subsidy, your federal assistance, state assistance, and then any advertising revenue is the what makes up the other 90%. And that number dropped about in half from prior year, which is about consistent with the ridership and the pandemic and all of that stuff. So the numbers were very interesting this year. All of them were very easily explainable due to different events related to the pandemic. So hopefully going forward, it'll be interesting to see what the numbers do. It was definitely an interesting year to start looking at it this
Right,
way because
right.
it was not a typical year.
Correct, right.
But we measure these consistently going forward. So every single one of these measurements that's in this annual report, we're going to look at quarterly as well, so we can see kind of the trending analysis going
What
forward.
I get concerned about is that the ridership, what they're paying, there's a lot of value to them on what they're paying.
Mhm.
From what actually comes out of their pocket. How we want to be cautious with that. It is,
If we were to operate just on the fare box, we'd have to charge about $12 a ride.
right, right. So I mean, the
A
value.
lot of subsidy there.
The value is there for the rider.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of competition out there, but at higher expenses, your Ubers and everything else, and it's
Yeah.
not reasonable.
Is that number down because the ridership, because of the pandemic, is lower? Because we got such high fixed costs?
Yes, so we lost a lot of our fare box revenue, our service contracted revenue, and our expenses didn't necessarily also decrease at the same level. level.
They stayed
They
almost the
stayed
s-
almost the
Yeah.
same and increased with, you know,
So
needing to
expenses
buy.
stayed the same. Syracuse University reduced their service, so that cost us revenue. Board of Education for Syracuse City School District, reduced their service because they only had the kids going to school like 1 day a week. We didn't charge fares for about 2.5 months, during the height of the pandemic, because we were loading at the rear door. So all of those things factored into lower fare box revenue or lower fare revenue. But the expenses stayed the same because we were still running service and.
Normally, prior to COVID, what would the number be?
Prior year, it was about 21%. Yeah, and that was pretty consistent across a couple of other NTD reporting properties as well. It's right about that 20-25% ratio.
NTD National Transit.
The National
Database.
Transit Database, yes.
Interesting. That's good. Any other questions at this point from the board? Suzanne, anything?
No, it does not need approval, so
No, okay, So this is more of an FYI, this is what we're doing?
Yeah, so the policy guidance, the authority's budget office policy guidance states that this has to be reviewed by the board annually. So
Yep.
the other thing is the board absolutely can, put in input if there's any specific, measurement that you would like to see added to this report, you can add those as well. In addition, under this guidance, if there was ever any sort of change or adjustment to the mission statement, vision, values, anything like that, that would be presented under this as well.
No, this was good, I like the methodology you use and, the outcomes there, and, I know this was a tough year, it's not a normal year, but, I think you did a really good job with this,
Thanks.
so.
Any other questions?
Anybody else, anything? Okay, at this point, then, I believe that's all we had on the agenda for governance today. So that will conclude, Darlene, we're gonna conclude the governance meeting
Yes.
at this point. Okay?
Yeah, thank you for your presentation, Susanna.
No, you're welcome, thank
And-
you.
And this will conclude our governance committee meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, wanna go right into, are we at a certain time, or we can go right, or we got it posted at 9:30, we have to take a break, or should we go right into audit and finance?
It's up to council.
Council?
You can go right into it.
Okay, very good.
Good answer.
Good job.
Of course, I charge by the hour, so it's better.
No, you better delay it then.
Yeah, how about I bring it?
Okay, folks, welcome to the Audit and Finance Committee today, May 21st. I was up here last week with Brian, Chris, Linda, Melissa to review the numbers, and I think we're in a good place right now. We're in a good place knowing where we are, and I'm always really rest assured that the individuals managing the numbers here are extremely competent, and the numbers that we see are the right numbers, which, so at this point, I'm gonna turn it over to Linda, and we will get into this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. The first statement, just so you know, these are just preliminary statements. We're undergoing audit. Next month, Bonadie will be here to present the final audited statements. They shouldn't look significantly different from what you're seeing here. The only exceptions are we don't have OPEB entries in yet. So that affects both the net position and the statement of revenues
Linda,
and
just
expenditures.
for the group, just explain OPEB, just so everybody knows.
The other post-employment benefits.
Just give an example, because it's important that people break
Yeah,
it down.
it's just an entry required by GASB. It's more about, what am I trying to say, the, transparency for, future cost of other post-employment benefits.
Very
It's,
good.
it doesn't, we're not funding this. This is just, for transparency.
Very good. Okay,
So on the preliminary net position, what I really wanted to point out was cash at the top. You know, we have a 30% increase over prior year, and that's due to, well, the pandemic, basically. We were able to keep our doors open because of the CARES Act funding, and that allowed us to conserve some cash, mainly due to the performance of our MRT this year. As you can see, well, when we get to that statement, we had an outstanding year, and that's
In my
contributing to the
16
results.
or 15 or 16 years with the authority, I've never seen the MRT tax at that level. Actually, when I see it, I still really don't believe it.
Yeah.
So somebody pinch me, because I really, you know, it's amazing, it really is. It's blown by everything we ever brought in before.
So our current assets are 30% more than prior year. You know, it's because of the cash, the MRT, and the reserves that we've created. Liabilities were 6% less than prior year, and that's mainly due to, that's further down, due to fewer accruals. We do a purchasing freeze before fiscal year end to kind of contribute with that, as well as, because we had significant cash, we were able to pay our bills as of 3/31, which improved over prior year. So are there any questions on the statement of net position? Okay, we can move on to the statement of expenditures and revenues, Chris. I won't go into too much detail on this because Bonadil will be doing that next month. The performance is the same as it's been in prior months. Like we just discussed in governance, 51% decrease in revenues due to the pandemic, but expenses are only about a 9% decrease from budget. But if you look at prior year, we're pretty close to prior year. That's not because of the same expenditures, but there was differences in the variances between the lines, which netted out to about the same as prior year. So at the end of the year with a $8.5 million gain, can you scroll up a little bit, Chris? And as you can see, we had $9.4 million in mortgage tax for the fiscal year, which is what the reason for the gain. We were able to, the CARES Act kept us going, it offset the losses in our revenues and increases in our expenditures. So conserving that MRT is gonna be something that we need to keep going in the future for our fiscal years, because that's gonna help fund the next year.
Linda, why don't you make a comment on, as your methodology on your budgeting for, you know, future year on the MRT tax? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I budgeted conservatively. I mean, yes, we had an excellent year. We had one month that was a record breaker at 1.3 million, was it? 1.7?
1.7.
Because of that, I was conservative. We don't know if that's going to continue on. We hope that it continues on.
When you see a good MRT tax, I think it's an impact on the economy, the local economy.
Yeah.
You know, for the counties that make this up.
I could say we're still going strong. April was another good month.
I mean, I was really amazed with the Oneida County's numbers, how strong those have been.
Yeah, they were.
But we see a lot of activity with development of real estate right
Yeah.
now there.
They're still strong in April.
Yeah.
Had another good month. Okay. Also included in your board packet is the accounts receivable reports, the investment report. I actually have an updated one that I put on the table today because the numbers needed to be adjusted. They were incorrect. The reserve statement, I think we have that one right, Chris. Also included in your board packet. As you can see, fiscal year 21, our gain has contributed to the reserves, and it's funding us. The conserved reserves plus this year is funding fiscal year 22, 23, and 24. And this is based on a very conservative budget going forward in 22, 23, and 24. This is assuming that revenues are not coming back to the levels that they were in fiscal year 20, and also that we were conservative with the state assistance as well. So that's all I've got to say about the reserve
I
statement.
like that because there's no red on that. It's nice.
Not until 25, but that's why we have to, with the reserves that we have right now and the cash, we need to, going forward, spend it wisely.
And the board's taken action over the last so many months to help increase the reserves position based on recommendations from the management. And it's a very good recommendation that we supported.
Yes, and we're probably gonna come to you sometime this year to maybe establish some more reserves.
Sure.
So that's something to think about in the future, as well as we do still have our line of credit with M&T. There's been discussion about possibly canceling that to save on some interest, because we are charged whether or not we use the funds or not.
So we'll wait upon your recommendation on how, we had a discussion last week about that.
How much do they charge if we don't borrow money?
What was the
Around
percentage?
10,000 a year.
It averages to about that, yeah. It's about 2,000 a quarter.
They're paying us on the money market .0008 on
Nobody
a lot of money.
Right.
I mean.
Too
they're
many.
Yeah, right.
They're charging us money not to borrow money. You might want to address that. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
and then on the money that we have deposited, we're earning zero.
Yeah.
Good point. Linda will follow up and
I
they're gonna
will.
report back out.
I mean, my recommendation would be to cancel the line of credit. because
Well,
of the cash flow.
yeah, but at what time to put the line of credit in place? I mean, you would think that they just say, we'll waive the fee because you're not borrowing money. I mean, well, okay, what you're telling me is maybe we should be shopping around again for another bank.
Yeah, we're committed right now through December of this year, but if we cancel it, at any time, we can go back out again and competitively, go out to get another line of credit if we need it.
Yeah, I know, but when you have something in place, I don't know if you just wanna jettison it, because it's work to get the line of credit, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, that's a
But we can-
fee for no service. There's no service for that fee, the $10,000. I look at that.
Linda's gonna look at it and, they're gonna come back with a recommendation and I agree with you. You know, they'll have a conversation. Let's be fair here, right?
Yes.
It's like a credit card that charges an annual fee and you don't ever use it. I mean, it's.
But
still
there's
pay-
other
They're making
banks that you can go
they're making
to.
that funding available to you for when you need it, but it's a cost for that.
Yeah. Hopefully it's negotiable and, we'll wait. And I'm glad you brought that, to our attention too. Good. Linda?
That's all I have to go over for the financial statements, unless you guys have other
Any other
additional
questions on this? Anybody? Okay, I need a motion to accept the financial statements, to move that to the board. Motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Darlene, second. Joe, all in favor? Aye. Okay,
Aye.
all right. Motion two. Caitlin, you can dominate the rest of the meeting today, kiddo. All right, so we're talking about authorize and approve procurement manual update.
Yes.
Changes to certain authorization levels. Hopefully, we're making this, a little bit.
We're bringing it to the 21st century.
That's what I'm saying
Yes,
here.
that.
Okay.
That's one yes.
Right, yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. So this motion is to request an update to our micro procurement threshold. So our current threshold is set at $1,000, which means any procurement under that amount is up to the buyer's discretion, and they utilize past history to determine what the best vendor would be for that procurement. Any procurement between $1,000 and our formal threshold of $25,000 needs 3 quotes. So the current micro threshold was last updated in 2003 when we raised it from $500 to $1,000.
That's
So-
almost 20 years ago.
Yes, it is. So we are requesting an update from the $1,000 threshold to a $2,500 threshold, which will bring us in line with our sister properties. On top of that, we are requesting some updates to our approver thresholds, which were listed out in the motion for you. And this just ensures that the approver thresholds are in line with the procurement thresholds.
Can you just talk a little bit about the percentages, you know, how many procurements are under 1,000 versus over?
I do have a lovely spreadsheet,
No, I don't-
including
I-
all of those
listen,
numbers, and it is
between
not up here.
pages.
Between you and Susanna, I'll be sleeping for a year reading your stuff, okay? No, but I think it's important, I mean, come on, we have competent people here, and, for that minimal,
Yeah.
that creates so much additional aggravation, stress, and work that, we gotta stop that, so I'm fully supportive of this.
It reduces, the number of hours for procurement.
And that was the
Yes.
savings.
Oh,
The
yes.
spreadsheet she did,
Absolutely.
and she presented to Chris and I, it shows that, how many just man hours this is
Yeah.
gonna save.
You don't have to sell me.
Person hours.
People hours, sorry.
Caitlin, what else we have there?
Well, that was it for the motion.
Okay, okay. So, I'm not even gonna ask anybody if they have any comments, because I think we're all together on this, so, with that being said, I need a motion to bring that to the full board for approval. Robert?
So moved.
Second, Tina, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Okay, Caitlin's we're gonna go into resolution 1, approve Auburn and Oswego paving contract.
Yes, so this contract will be paid for with grant funding and 80-10-10 split. This invitation to bid was publicly let on April 1st. We sent out 111 bid packages, and an additional 8 packages were requested. On April 22nd, we received 2 bids, with the lowest responsible bidder being Paul F. Vitale Incorporated.
We sent out 111, but we got 2 that responded.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. They offered a price of $230,695 for the full project. So it's my recommendation that the board award the Auburn and Oswego parking lot paving, contract to Paul F. Vitale Incorporated.
Okay. Any questions for Caitlin on the paving? Okay. Need a motion to accept, to award contract to Paul F. Vitale Incorporated. Motion, please.
So moved.
Okay, was that?
So moved.
Darlene. Thanks, Darlene. Second? Robert, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Okay, resolution 3, approve gasoline bulk delivery contract. Caitlin?
Yes, this contract will be paid for with operating funds. The invitation to bid was publicly let on April 15th. We sent out 18 bid packages and an additional 5 were requested. On May 6th, we received 2 bids, with the lowest responsible bidder being Mirabito Energy Products. There is a full 30% WBE goal on this contract with a waiver for MBE participation. So it's our recommendation that the board award the gasoline bulk delivery contract to Mirabito Energy Products for a full 5-year term.
Is there anything in these contracts now with the shortage of truck drivers and all this that's going on where they could come back to us to adjust the price? I'm just curious. And if you don't know, you can.
Yeah, no, all of our contracts do allow the vendor to come and request an update to pricing if it's necessary. And that's where we have an internal discussion to determine whether or not their justification is reasonable.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Caitlin on the gasoline bulk delivery? Okay, need a motion bring it to the full board for approval? Robert, second. Joe, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, resolution 3, approval of electrical services contract.
This contract will also be paid for with operating funds. The invitation to bid was publicly let on March 25th. We sent out 124 bid packages and an additional 3 were requested. On April 15th, we received 3 bids, with the lowest responsible bidder being Patricia Electric. They offered an hourly rate of $96 per hour. They do have a full MWBE goal, 30% on this contract. So it's our recommendation that we award the electrical services contract to Patricia Electric for a full 5-year term.
That's pretty interesting, when you talk about what you wanna do when you grow up. You're talking about, one of the trades, $96 an hour on the low side. Not interesting, it's pretty interesting, when you think about it. Okay, any questions regarding the electrical contract? Okay, so we're gonna need a motion to award a 5-year, term with Patricia Electric. Need a motion, bring it to the full board for approval. Joe?
So moved.
Second, Tina? All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Caitlin, great job today. Okay. Linda, any other business at hand?
No, that concludes our report.
Okay, folks, that'll adjourn the Finance Committee part of the meeting. Let's take, what do we got here? What time is it? 9:30. a little bit ahead here, so what we wanna do is,
Take a 12-minute break if you want.
yeah, let's take about 15 minutes.